Me, Tony Sue. We live on home on 7583 Ridge Road. We've owned this home for over 10 years. We've spent hours and hours volunteering around the lake. We've helped with the buoys being put in. We've helped with the weed sign posting. All these years that we've been on the lake, we haven't ever seen any property damage or shoreline damage at our property. Our kids have been involved with the ski team, and we have done all sorts of lake activities, from kayaking and paddle boating. It's a matter of courtesy and respect for everybody's activities that they want to do on the lake. I feel that that's what's needed more so than an ordinance. Thank you.
My name is Keith Walter. I'm in 7351 Chapel Drive. There seems to be a big misconception that this ordinance is a ban on surfing, it's a ban on big boats. If anyone's read the ordinance, help me understand, where does it talk about surfing? Where does it talk about big boats? I think it's going to be a big disappointment if this passes and surfing continues. So I want to find out how many will continue to surf if this ordinance passes. So I reached out to a surfing group on Whitewater, and here's a few of the comments. I will continue to surf, and the way the proposed ordinance is written, I believe we can still do it legally. Even if it passes, it would be less convenient without ballast, but my boat can hold 14 people, which weighs more than my full ballast weight. I surf at 10.5 to 11 miles per hour. My boat planes off at that speed. The proposed ordinance says the transition speed is the speed below planing. Next one, we are surfing now without ballast and will continue to surf. Another one, we will surf regardless of the decision, and there's 4 of us in that family. We have 9 immediate family members that will surf. We have taught every guest and a relative that has come to our lake for the weekend. The number must be over 50. Our boat legally fits enough to create a wake without a ballast if we need to. Our family will continue to surf respectfully either way. Of every response I got, not a single one said they would stop surfing. So what is this ban really about? Even the originator of this ban is concerned about the enforceability. He states that people will voluntarily comply. That's what we're depending on, people voluntarily complying. Because what does plowing mean? What does planing mean? What does transition mean? What is bow high? I heard someone discuss it's enforceable because we talk about bow high. How are law enforcement supposed to enforce something that you can't measure? It's not possible. It's just going to end up in a big legal battle. So I guess in other words, this ban will be a bigger disappointment for those of you that are supporting it. Because you have the expectation that will be enforced, and there's absolutely no way some of these terms can be enforced. And when it's not enforced, the surfing will continue, and nothing will change on this one.
Kevin Cahill, we live on N75 Ridge Road. I'm sorry, N7595.
Thank you.
My wife and I bought a house here on Whitewater Lake approximately 3 years ago. We love the lake life and the surrounding area. As part of our living on the lake, we do have a wake boat, 22-foot wake boat. But it's been great for our friends, family to surf, ski, and wakeboard at our own choosing of what we want to do. Obviously, respectfully following all the rules and the regulations. But it has been a pure joy to have our kids on the lake and doing the water activities. Today I express my opposition to the proposed ban on wake surf boats on Whitewater Lake. While I fully support thoughtful efforts to maintain environmental, health, safety, and shared enjoyment at our beautiful lake, an outright ban on the wake boats would be an overreach that unfairly targets a specific group of lake users and set a concerning precedent for individual freedoms. Wake surfing is not only a popular recreational activity enjoyed by many families and residents, it is also part of the lake culture that draws people to live, vacation, and invest in property here. It helps with our tourism in southern Wisconsin. It helps with everybody, small businesses within the area. As we've mentioned before, instead of a blanket prohibition, I encourage the board to consider a more balanced alternative such as setback requirements from the shoreline. A statewide wake surfing standard of 200 feet from shoreline is a win-win for boaters, residents, and tourism industry, and those who enjoy our lakes. This approach has been successfully implemented in other lake communities to address concerns around shoreline erosion and safety without eliminating recreational activities. The proposed wake surfing ban in Wisconsin stands as one of the most stringent in the nation, when compared to other regulations in other states. If you look at South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, and Alabama, they've adopted regulations based on Water Sports Industry Association law, which prohibits wake surfing within 200 feet of shore during nighttime and on lakes smaller than 50 acres. Scientific evidence shows that at this 200 feet distance, the wave height and energy of wake boats are comparable to ski boats, pontoons, and fishing boats. Just finish quick. Every citizen has a right to use our waterways, including for all towed water sports. The sensible path forward is to support common sense policies and promote joint access to our cherished waterways for all citizens, not discriminating against any particular activity. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jeff Bellinger. I live at N7568 Ridge Road. Been coming to Whitewater Lake since 1994. We bought the house about 16 years ago, and we own a Malibu LSX 22. I started out boating on Lake Michigan. I sailed the Caribbean, and I wake surfed on Whitewater Lake. Wake boats are remarkable machines. They take the water that they're traveling over and they create a force of energy that comes back at the boat, that allows you to ride that wave behind the boat, pushes the boat. So when a lot of people are talking about the waves tonight, the waves do stop when the boat stops. Matter of fact, our boat stops, it comes back right at us. I invite anybody to come and drive on the boat. It's remarkable because when we're forced to go counterclockwise on Whitewater Lake, my wake never hits the shore. So I know that as I talk about this and I'm sitting, and I watch people on the lake and I see the 4 tubers and I see the people ripping through that little area where the point is, where we have all those markers. Yeah, you're looking for the law enforcement to be there. There's a lot of things that go wrong here. There's a lot of times where I've got wake surfers behind the boat and I'm just like, give me a second, there's a boat coming. We always give, way to the boats that are out there, and it's a shame that people just don't have common respect for other boaters on the lake. I felt bad listening to some of the stories here. To tell you, it's not us. And it really, what it ends up being is we need more communication. We need people to be able to, stop the boats and tell them what they're doing wrong. And if we did that, I think we'd live in harmony. The other thing is, I've always thought this has been a great lake with the no wake hours that exist from 9, can't go till 9, you gotta stop at 7. It gives everybody those hours to do the things that they wanna do. I go out before 9 if I wanna be on a paddleboard or kayak. I could go out during the day, create the wake, and after 7 o'clock, on most nights, on the weekends, I'm able to do whatever I want, without worrying about other boats on the lake. The one thing that I do want to recommend is that, we've been certainly paying a lot of attention to this, and the state is getting involved. The state's gonna have meetings next week, and as much as I'd like to do this every week with you guys here, I'd much rather have you guys wait till next week and see what the state does, because they're gonna come out with something. And whatever you put in place, that's gonna go right over the top of it. So my recommendation is, even though I support wake surfing, is hold off and let the state look at it. Thanks.
So Mike, I'm Jane Weaver, I live at 7980 RMW Town Line Road. My husband and I and all of our kids, we have two daughters. We've been on the lake for 52 years. Two daughters, three grandsons, and our great grandson. All of our kids grew up with Minneska. Many of you know Minneska. I see so many familiar faces here. I'm not about bands at all. I'm about families, kids, growing up, having fun, being involved with the ski show for 40 years. My husband drove a boat, I ran the sound system. We listen to boats come by, and the kids, everybody I see, the kids are having fun. They're just like, they are boatloads of kids, and they're playing the music loud, and we love it. I mean, our shoreline hasn't suffered. We put it in, fortunately, in time, I guess, we went up rocks, and we're in the biggest area, so we get wakeboard boats. I mean, we have boats of our own, we have 2 windboards. I still like to ski, I like to jet ski, I like to kayak, I sit on the paddleboard, I do not trust myself balancing on the paddleboard. But any weekend, any weekend at all, I don't even think about going out. I mean, I might go out on jet ski, but I wouldn't even consider skiing or kayaking, but there's one day a week, probably, that I look forward to and hope it's a calm day. It's not just the wakeboard boats out there, it's all of the activity. It's everybody coming to Whitewater Lake to have fun, whether they live on the lake or not. They're out there having fun. I mean, I know people don't like certain things, but there are certain things that we do. Just have to say, hey, that's our lake. But, you know, that's somebody doing what they love best. And I don't know where we go from here. I'm afraid too many bands create more bands. So it's not my decision, the pros or cons. I've heard them all, and you know, I can't agree or disagree with anybody because everybody has their own concern. But for us living on Whitewater Lake, it has been a tremendous experience. Minneska was a tremendous experience for us, and we just turn it all over to the board and whoever's making the decision to do the right thing for most people. So that's run out of time. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dennis. I live at 7574 Ridge. 74. So I come at this from a different angle. I'm a surgical scientist, and I'm actually a law enforcement officer for over 25 years, both of them. I live and die by the data. I've read everything I can get my hands on when it comes to this data. And decisions need to be made by data, and there's nothing compelling here that says that triggers a cause and effect. So yes, there's a lot of emotion built into this. There's a lot of angst built into this. But at the end of the day, decisions have to be made by data. And the science behind the arguments for a ban, which I do not support, just don't support it. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Cal Coleman too. I've been a long resident of Whitewater. I just want to say that my extended family, meaning wife, children, and we probably have over 100 years on the water, just our family alone. And as the past president of the Whitewater Lake Ski Team, which is called Minneska, we provide safe entertainment, water skiing shows on Whitewater Lake. I know a lot about water safety. I don't want to get into details. Wakeboarding, skiing has a very safe record. We're writing to extend our concerns in opposition to the proposed Whitewater Lake ordinances. We're also a lake homeowner on Whitewater Lake for over 10 years, somewhere between 10 and 15, I don't know. But we also, we just want to say that we oppose it. It's, if you look at the science, you look at the things going on, they're very, very, and I don't know if they got into some of the litigation, there's maps out there, there's routes out there. We're talking about certification of routes, making sure if you're a boat guy, you're on these dedicated routes, and you're gonna be signed off with a certificate, so if a police officer stops you, that boat driver can show him that they know the route, they know the rules, they know where to be and not to be. We're gonna be probably one of the safest people out there on Whitewater Lake. Thank you.
My name is Joe Ferguson, I'm at N7960 Oak Ridge. I have not been on the lake nearly as long as many of you. We bought our home about 5 years ago, and we did not pay $40,000 for the property. We paid a lot more money. So I'm coming to this meeting with the perspective that we've made a big investment in the property, and what I've learned tonight, which I didn't know beforehand, is that there is a lot of nuances involved in this issue, and there are a lot of strong arguments to be made on both sides of the board. But I think personally, a ban sounds extreme. I think that I learned a lot of terms tonight because I'm not somebody who has history on any lake that I didn't know before. Barefooting and slaloming and scoop to duping. So I don't own a wakeboard, a wake boat with ballast. I do own a boat that came with the house that I bought, and I do like to drag my kids around on a tube, and someday I hope to become a better water skier. But as an owner of the property on the lake, my perspective is that a ban would potentially have a negative impact on property values and on my investment. And I don't think that I'm opposed also. I think a ban is extreme, but I do believe that there's probably some compromise to be made about regulations and thinking about safer ways to enjoy the lake for those of us that do enjoy wakeboarding and for those of us that have concerns about the negative aspects of wakeboarding. And for me personally, maybe someday I might want to become a wakeboarder, and that's also where I come from in terms of my personal perspective on this. So I don't think that this discussion should end, but I think the nature of the ordinance and some of the things I've learned about nuances of the different types of boats tonight, I think I encourage the board to consider those and maybe just take a pause on making a decision. So thank you very much.
My name is Arch Nitz. I live at M7649 East Lake Shore Drive. And for those of you who don't know exactly where it is, I live just off of Cruise Lane. So I see a lot of boats going in and going out. And one of the things I've been noticing as of late, wakeboard boats that are enhanced for making a wake are starting to appear at our shore. People jumping off the boat and enjoying it for the lake. Therefore, my concern is that as other lakes adopt such ordinances, that's even going to drive more people to our lake because they won't be able to operate the boat they paid $100,000 for on other lakes. And I can tell you from listening to people around Whitewater County, many lakes are considering adopting such ordinances. So you're going to push the traffic on the Whitewater Lake. One last comment, we spent a lot of money. I was on the board, the original board that put together the removal of the bog. We did a lot of study of the water, and the quality of the water, and the shoreline. And I'd hate to see the lake go backwards. Now, I'm not saying that wakeboards are going to destroy the bottom of the lake or the shorelines. I don't know. But I can tell you, if you have a 3-foot shoreline wall, the water comes over. So it's definitely not doing any good. So if you own a wakeboard boat, be aware. Be aware of what you're doing to the shorelines. don't continue to make small circles around the lake. Enjoy the whole lake. Instead of, because you create a bigger wake when you're making that turn. And that area of Cruise Lane comes in pretty heavy. Thank you.
My name is John Stos, North 8831 Stringers Bridge Road. I do not live on this lake.
Can I get the address?
Sure, North 8831 Stringers Bridge. I do not live on this lake, but I've been working on Lake Beulah for over 4 decades on the water, and I got certified in scuba diving in 1982. And I like to fish, I like to jet ski, I like to pontoon, I like to do all the things that most lake owners like to do. The thing, I got to grow up, I'm almost 60 years old, I got to grow up when the lakes were pristine from not having man-made environmental damage. Now, I have a YouTube channel, I'm recording this over there right now, and I have almost 500 videos on my YouTube channel, and I exclusively record town board meetings, management district meetings, things of that nature. So I sat through a lot of testimony on this exact subject over the last 5 years. I will be putting all this on my YouTube channel for anyone that wants to come back and look at it. It's my name and YouTube, and that's it. Everything's wide open. You can feel free to go check it out. Well, from what I've been able to understand and figure out here, is you need a minimum of 25 feet of water depth. Otherwise, you're gonna destroy the bottom of the lake with your prop wash. Now, I don't know if these 2 lakes here that we're discussing are marrow-driven lakes. Well, when you get prop wash off of a boat in a bow-raised fashion, that prop wash gets suspended into the water column. All that sediment on the bottom of the lake gets suspended into the water column. Your plankton, you're very small, barely able to see stuff, that's what feeds your small fry fish. And if you lose the plankton, you lose the small fry fish, and it escalates up the food chain. So when the bottom of your lake used to have nice weeds on it, and it doesn't have weeds anymore, or it's very spotty, you're gonna end up with a recreational lake that isn't gonna do anybody any favors. When people select to buy a boat, they do some research. They look around, they find all the options you can get, whatever. Well, you're basically buying a monster boat. You need to find a monster lake that's got the depth to support your boat. If you try running those boats on small, shallow body water lakes, you're gonna destroy them. That's just the bottom line. I do believe, and everyone has the right to use the lake. It's built into our Constitution in Wisconsin. The Public Water Trust Doctrine says you have a right to use the lake. It does not say you have a right to destroy the lake. And I think the data, no matter where you source it, the term is showing that these boats are destroying the lakes. If you've got 25 feet or more water in a substantial area in the lake, operate the boats there. Otherwise, I don't think you should do it.
Been sitting too long reading orders. I figured it was time to get up to the mic. My name is Chuck Chamberlain. I'm a resident of N7268 Cron Drive in Richmond. And we've been on the lake for 53 years. So we've seen a lot of changes as time has gone on. And I'm a member of the Whitewater Lake Management Board, and I've been part of the board since 2011. As elected members of the board, our job is to both oversee Whitewater's rice lakes and provide the guidance to keep the lakes clean, healthy, and safe for property owners and users of the lake. When we make decisions, recommendations, we are taking the best interest of the people who have elected us. The wakeboarding issues are an example of looking out for the safety and well-being of users of our lakes and the environment. I myself, like my colleague, Dan Berg, I'm concerned about the shallow bottoms and the environmental impact of the wake boats. as I was sitting here, we talked about the concern about the waves. And one of the questions that I've been bouncing around is, why do we have no wave zones? Waves must be an issue. Obviously, close to shore it is, and most people say that the wave boats don't, when they generate the artificially enhanced waves, by the time they get to shore, they're not dangerous. But I do have a concern. I do support the ordinance, and I do appreciate everybody taking their time to come here and express opinions and discuss it before the town board. So thank you very much.
I'm Janet Hirsch. I live at N7621 East Lakeshore Drive. I have to think about what my address is and where I'm at. I grew up with a house on Lake Geneva. It's a lake that we would get up in at about 4 in the morning to be able to go out and water ski, because as the sun came out, the lake was no longer good to water ski. One of the reasons why we purchased on Whitewater was to be able to find a lake that we could use during the week and weekend. And I remember my father coming here while he was still alive and saying, "You're so lucky that you have a lake that you can use on the weekend." And he's right. Well, in the last 8 or 10 years, it's become more and more difficult to enjoy the lake because of the amount of traffic and the height of wakes that are going on the lake. I would like to recommend that the board approves the ordinance, and I'd like to thank them for taking their time tonight to listen to everyone.
I already spoke.
Good evening, everyone. John nailed it. Any discussion about distance from shore is meaningless.
What is your name?
It's meaningless unless you consider depth.
Sorry, could I get your name?
Absolutely. My name is Fred Soloway, N2413 Whispering Pines Road. It's not an address you recognize because I'm from Waupaca, Wisconsin. I drove 3 hours here today at the invitation of some friends on Whitewater Lake. And they asked me to share my experience. We fought for 2 years to get an ordinance on our chain of lakes. 2 years. On July 23rd of 2024, we were successful. 3 towns came together, voted unanimously to enact the exact same language that this town board is considering tonight. You know what happened the next day? Wake surfing stopped. People went out tubing and water skiing and fishing, kneeboarding. Life went on. It went on. Our smallest lake out of 6 on the chain of lakes is twice the size of the deep hole on Whitewater Lake. Twice the size. We passed an ordinance. The tipping point in the whole discussion in Waupaca was when Brian Felco's 21-foot sea ray fell into a trough on Long Lake. He wasn't expecting it. Windshield was smashed, fiberglass cracked, battery flew, and worst of all, his wife flew too. First up, then down, and spent the next 6 weeks in bed. We've got the photographs, we've got the testimony. Brian is no novice to driving a boat in all his life. That was the tipping point. Safety. Safety. The people in Waupaca County and the state of Wisconsin have spoken loud. There's no survey that's taken place that has less than 75% support for regulations. We were ordinances 31, 32, and 33 in the state of Wisconsin. Last night, the number went to 55, with 24 more lakes added. So it's about 300 in all. And I'm personally working with dozens of other lake communities to get ordinances passed. And a lot of them are right around here. And when they're successful, where do you think the surf boats that are going, where they're gonna go, right? To the few unprotected lakes. And an average depth, to the maximum depth of 10 feet, they're gonna ruin your lake. Thank you.